what's been my favorite myth? Well, it's the same as Adam's, oddly enough, and that is the lead balloon. Out of all those spectacular things that we've done that involve explosives and all these other things, the thing about the lead balloon was that, the things that we enjoy most about doing our job are exercising our brains. And, like, sure, it's fun blowing things up and, doing crazy things, but in the case of the lead balloon, what was happening there was that this was such a simple thing, really. It's just a bag. And for those of you that haven't seen it, it was a 28-pound bag made out of lead sheet. It was 14 feet in diameter, and it flew. And to do that, this is a material that is basically like handling wet toilet paper. It's just very heavy and so weak that you can practically blow a hole through it with your mouth. And so, what you have to do with that simple object is to completely and absolutely 100% internalize what you're going to do to make it fly. And so, as we do in a lot of the experiments that are not quite so elegantly simple as this one, we built that thing in our heads down to the point where when we went through it on the day of the experiment, we had already walked through every second of that day, every single step, every possible contingency or failure that could happen in making that simple object. We had anticipated so clearly that it felt like we were seeing the future when we actually did it, or felt like we had already seen it. So for us, that's, we like to put that out there, is that's what thrills us most about doing our job, is that kind of challenge, the mental challenge of being able to engineer and design things so clearly. Young man, yes? Well, what was the hardest myth that we ever did? Well, like the lead balloon was difficult, but it was smooth. We didn't really struggle with it. We just did a really good, careful job of it. When you say the most difficult or hardest myth, I'm thinking stuff that we had to fight, some stuff that we had to struggle with, and I would say that would be the 22,000-foot fall, and the reason was that, there were a number of reasons. The main one that kind of set everything off in a cascade was that it was 120 degrees in California in the Sierras where we had to do that experiment, and people were dying because of the heat wave. It was a record thing that was going on in there, and we had everything failures from things like Buster, who was made of a gelatin or a ballistics material, melted on the ground. He kind of looked like a gingerbread cookie after it's been sitting there. It just kind of flowed in the dirt. So we had to fix that. The helium balloons that the story here was that a pilot or somebody on a B-17 bomber falls out of the plane over France, over a train station, just as a bomb is going off in the train station, and the upwelling of the shock or the blast saves him, so he's lowered down gently to the ground, which is, kind of, obviously it's a questionable thing, and we showed that. But we replicated that whole thing, and we had 500 pounds of high explosives sitting there in a metal container that got so hot that it was, it was literally one of those things you could fry an egg on it. And I'm looking at the bomb tech and going, like, are we okay? I can't actually touch the container that is housing that, the 500 pounds of TNT is like, all the people there on the chute, everything that was in sight, it would just all be gone. It was, and that's pretty much what happened later, but we fortunately were a mile and a half away when we did it. But we had the helium balloons that hoisted Buster after we kind of pieced them back together. They melted or fell apart from the heat. We had to abort because of something that happened with the lines that were holding on to these balloons. They ripped, and some people got rope burns from that. I guess we ended up having to come back after a second try, we came back for a third try, had to start at 2 a.m. in the morning so that we could get everything that we needed done before 9 a.m. because of the fire danger from the blast, as well as the balloons melting. So sometimes those kinds of stories go that way, and it's just a slog. You know, you're getting up every morning super early, and all this stuff has to come together, and sometimes it just doesn't. So that's hard. Last question. Young blonde girl there, right? Oh, hold on. I'll get to you in a second. When the show first came out, did we ever think it was going to be successful? Absolutely not. I have this effects shop. It's a small business. I just try to. I would take on anything that I could to pay the rent, and this was just another one of those things. We did toy prototyping. We did effects. The whole effects thing is you get jobs a chunk at a time. It's not like a factory where the money is always flowing in if you've got a good product and people are buying it. It's just you get this job, you do it, and then you're laid off, and you get this job. And so it's hard to keep people employed, hard to have regular flow.